was nothing, just lights in the trees, a trick of the frost, a ghost on the breeze. But I saw a mirror older than me, staring through time like it wanted to speak. The forest went silent, the world held its breath. Something was watching beyond life and death. We stepped through the green, boots breaking the seal, not chasing a light, but something too real. I came back with salt on my skin, my mind split wide where the storm got in. They call it a test, but I know the deal. History blinks beneath the green veil.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 9, The Double Self. How you doing, John?
Great.
Chris?
Awesome.
Hanging in there, both of you?
Hanging in.
I think we all had a little interesting weekend. I know you were busy, Chris, working at a doing your thing on Saturday. And John, I'm just glad that you're here and you're well.
Thanks.
Everything worked out for you. I was at a concert. That's why we all didn't do a live show this past Saturday. But we will be back with the live preview review show on Saturday. So a couple of things. I don't know what you guys seen, and this is a little off topic, but during the hearing, they were showing that video clip of the Hellfire. And Chris and I think we know from a show that just aired on KGRA and UAP Crossfire that it's the consensus by those in the military that this was a Chinese surveillance balloon. John, any thoughts? Have you seen the video? Are you aware?
No, I've heard something that comes along that effect, but with me being in the hospital and surgery and stuff, I don't know. But are they claiming that was what was taken down over the East Coast?
They're not claiming that. It's just that some of the people that Chris had on the show this past Thursday.
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead.
The balloon that was shown in that video was off the coast of Yemen. And so they I guess apparently they tried to make it look like it was an unidentified object. But other people saying no, that's a Chinese spy balloon. We've seen them all the time. The Hellfire, the Hellfire has two things. It has a detonation explosion piece to it that explode, or it actually has what like razors come out that would rip it apart and let it drop. And the Hellfire hit it. There's no question, but the Hellfire didn't have a detonation. It had a type of charge that all it would have is these like spikes or razors that would come out and shred it. And I think they probably wanted it intact, which chunks did fall off of it. Now, the question I have is, the U.S. government should know exactly what that is. And they tried to portray that as a UFO. And most people are saying that's not a UFO. There's no way. This was a spy balloon. I first thought it was a drone, acted like a drone, but it was a very sophisticated spy.
That's what I heard. I heard as well.
Doesn't make sense. Why would you spend that kind of money on a Hellfire missile? They could have just shot it down. They didn't need that.
No, a Hellfire.
That's still over $1 million. I mean,
with the U.S. government, money is no object.
Whatever. I think personally, guys, this goes back to a little bit what this series is about. I think right now, don't believe anything you hear. Don't believe anything you see. And we're about to go down this rabbit hole that no one's ever seen between now and Christmas. And let's take out the show. Let's just say in general, we're about to go through a rabbit hole.
Right. You make a good point about the rabbit hole, because perhaps the government doesn't want you to go down that rabbit hole. Want to change the rabbit hole, because I mean, people are saying to themselves who are in the know, going, "Why would they put something out like that? That so fuzzy, you can't really see it well." Especially when you have very sophisticated cameras that are on these drones, and they're actually shooting it from above. It was not the drone that fired the missile that took the video. It was another drone that's shooting from above. And they said you should have had a much clearer shot. You should have been able to actually see that. So people are saying, just like the same thing with the Nimitz, everything else, they're not giving you the actual, prime film. They're dumbing it down, and then they're trying to cough it up. This is a very strange phenomenon.
It's not unidentified. They know exactly what it was.
Well, why? Yeah, you don't. Okay, first of all, you don't shoot at something you don't know what it is. Okay. And not only that, but it was stationary. It wasn't like it was being hostile towards anything. So you don't take a shot at it. And they lie all the time. They shot something at something over when they had that big invasion from the Chinese, came from Canada.
Yeah, that was a spy balloon.
Well, no. Yeah, but the other thing that they took down that was completely separate from that, over on the Canadian border in Wisconsin. The Air Guard F-16s left. They didn't use the 35, which they had, or the 22, which they had been using. It was F-16s, and the F-16 came back missing a missile, and they never would talk about what that was all about. And that was all air coordinated with an AWACS. Right. That normally doesn't happen either.
Weren't there 3 objects shot down? They claimed.
Yeah, and then they claimed they couldn't find it. Yeah, you shoot something down, you find it. Okay, we're just lied to on a daily basis.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
The Black Vault just caught them in a lie today. They did FOIA where Arrows said that they claimed basically was that there was a whole bunch of reports. Then when he did the FOIA, they came back and said there was only 5, and then they accidentally said there was a lot more. So now there's a re-FOIA going on. There's over 25 to 30 reports on different incidents that were evaluated that they're holding back from the public. And this was supposed to be a transparent organization that was going to file a report on what they found or not, and they just got caught in a lie today. I mean, we could go on and on with the lies that are going on right now.
Well, let's get to before we continue, because we only have a half hour, including the episode we're about to see. Let us get to Chapter 9, the double self, and we'll follow up after we air this episode.
Actually, that was a great intro, because you really think about Chapter 9 was all about scrubbing memories and putting the lie in there.
Well, we're about to find out a lot more about the detail of this episode right now, so let's get right to it and air it.
Jack Barrett had returned to duty, but not as the same man who vanished into the forest. Neither had Sergeant B. Their memories had been chemically scrubbed, fragmented under orders, and buried behind layers of psychological blocks. On paper, they were restored, fit, normal. But the phenomenon hadn't left them. It lingered, beneath their skin, inside their dreams, behind every quiet moment. The official line was simple: a fabricated report, a staged training exercise, a Cold War distraction. Colonel Ross Denning's memo would seal the narrative. His audio tape, once a clear chronicle, was scrubbed, cut into fragments, left confusing by design. Only a handful of lines survived, and even those misled. But the price of silence came with a new cost, because now Jack and Sergeant B were changing, and the government was watching. The program had already been folded into a special access protocol. Congress would never see the files. The president would never be briefed. Only a few knew: Dr. Elias Voss, Christopher Pike, and CIA liaison Christopher Hunter Green. And those few were no longer studying the phenomenon. They were learning how to weaponize it.
There's a silence under skin, a whisper where the truth had been, buried deep behind the veil, in fractured minds too lost to fail. A flash of light, a broken tree, two shadows where one man should be. They walk back into normal life with phantom wounds and hidden strife. And tell me what I saw was wrong. Say the static wasn't strong. Erase the echo, block the sound, but memory still turns around. We served, we bled, and we forgot, but silence stains what time could not. Orders came with blank-eyed grace. They wiped the hours, blurred the place. Names became a whispered code. In blacked-out files the past corrode. Sad to be, he screamed at night. Said Jack still glowed beneath the light. But meds and lies and flights resumed, as if no forest ever bloomed. Down in a vault the tape was trimmed. The real was clipped, the false was hemmed. A memo vague, a light described, while men who saw it never lied. The satellite they said was burned, retired in orbit, truth adjourned. The field remains, the pulse survives, and something waits where memory hides. Tell me what I saw was wrong. Say the static wasn't strong. Erase the echo, block the sound, but memory still turns around. We served, we bled, and we forgot, but silence stains what time could not. Walked away, our duty done, but still we chase what we outrun. For Jack, for truth, for what remains. We are the men who hold the names.
After Jack Barrett and Sergeant B were retrieved from the time dilation bubble during the incident on the 28th, they were medically stabilized and returned to duty by the morning of the 29th. But neither man remembered what had happened, not completely. Under the authority of CIA analyst Christopher Hunter Green, memory suppression procedures were deployed. Neurochemical fogging was combined with targeted hypnosis and electromagnetic dampening, deliberately fragmenting access to short-term and long-term recall. The goal: eliminate coherent recollection of the forest event while preserving baseline cognitive function. It worked, but not for long. The phenomenon had other ideas. Jack would feel it first. A tightening in his spine. Glimpses of sequences that hadn't happened yet. Sergeant B described it as dreams that bled through while awake. Together, they carried a fracture, one that even the block mechanisms couldn't fully contain. That was when the problems began. They started missing time again. Reflexes shifted. Peripheral vision began to register movement too fast for the eye. They began responding to things before they happened. The CIA locked both of them into evaluation, but this time they weren't treated like assets to be discarded. They were considered prototypes. Whatever intelligence resided within the field, it was not inert. It reacted to suppression. As Jack returned to base protocols, desk duty, light security walks, he began experiencing intermittent blackouts, then flashes. Not of what happened, but of something trying to remind him. The same was true for Sergeant B. He began waking in the night, drenched in sweat, unable to account for hours. They weren't alone. Lieutenant Colonel Ross Denning, the team lead on the recovery mission, was summoned to draft an internal memo summarizing the event. He was given a basic outline: anomalous lights observed, brief investigation, nothing significant. He complied, but not entirely of his own will. Programming had been built into his neural routines via a Cold War-era linguistic protocol. Trigger phrases embedded during early service training had turned Denning into a narrative filter, able to report, but only within strict bounds. The tape he recorded during the second encounter, the only live documentation, was later recovered by Pike and Hunter Green. Most of it was scrubbed. Less than 18 minutes remained, cut and distorted. The result? Confusion, a tactical move. Anyone listening would find it incomplete, ambiguous, and that was the point. Jack Barrett and Sergeant B had returned to duty with memories veiled, but something had changed. Physiological anomalies emerged first. Jack's reflexes began responding before stimuli occurred. Sergeant B reported hearing unspoken thoughts, glimpses of intention from those near him. What began as headaches and vivid dreams soon clarified into patterns. Predictive senses, lucid perception, accelerated cognition. They didn't talk about it at first, but the phenomenon wasn't done with them. Dr. Elias Voss had seen the markers. He had them quietly brought in on their days off. No uniforms, no paperwork. Just the two of them inside a converted SCIF beneath Martlesham Heath. There, Voss initiated a training regimen informed by Project Stargate. The protocols were unofficial, but exacting. He taught them Vipassana meditation to stabilize their internal signal and reduce cognitive dissonance. Kripalu yoga sessions followed, allowing them to stretch, center, and bring their awareness into congruence with their altered neural rhythms. But it was Voss's custom-designed Stargate method, an evolved integration of psycho-navigation and harmonic resonance that showed them how to reach into the signal field without breaking. They began by remote viewing coordinates already known to Voss. Then they were given unfamiliar targets. Both succeeded. Jack described what he saw as compressed timelines threaded into light. Sergeant B said he could feel the emotional residue of events before they happened. Voss documented everything. In time, they would become something more. Assets, yes, but also keys. Not just to the anomaly, to the human mind's convergence with it. By early March, both Jack and Sergeant B began experiencing physiological complications. Jack's EEG showed spikes in theta and gamma activity, correlating with altered perception states. Sergeant B reported migraines, tremors, and what he described as phantom echoes, hearing voices from conversations that hadn't occurred. The science team, led by Dr. Elias Voss and assisted by Pike, placed them under ongoing surveillance at the Edgewood Convergence Unit, a remote facility built for exotic field effects. There, it became clear that exposure to the time dilation bubble had not merely displaced them, it had rewritten small portions of their biology. Cellular decay in Jack's mitochondria was accelerating, but oddly so, influenced by oscillatory frequencies detected in the deep forest near Capel Green. Sergeant B's blood work revealed elevated isotopes not commonly found in terrestrial environments. Operation Echo Protocol had fractured the boundary between event and observer. The entire project, now updated to Echo Protocol Phase 2, was buried under a Special Access Program, SAP, with zero congressional oversight. Only a closed cell within the CIA and a fragmentary liaison group in the Ministry of Defense were granted access. Congress knew nothing. The President knew fragments. The director of the CIA knew everything. Even Dr. Voss had begun to fear what they had unearthed. Back at the site, a subterranean control grid was being reactivated. Using recovered telemetry from Night 2, the science team began shaping energy signatures into weapon profiles. Tests included directed temporal stasis fields, 3-second local freezes, short-range cognition disruptors based on harmonic bleed, plasma-based signal projection mimicking UAP motion blur. The science team expanded their research into the site. Capel Green was cordoned off under the guise of ordnance clearing. Beneath the soil, Voss's instruments recorded lingering quantum decoherence, signatures that couldn't be explained by anything conventional. A secret weapons initiative was born. They called it Silent Vector, and Jack and Sergeant B were its reluctant foundations. In effect, they were taking what had happened to Jack and turned it into defense architecture. But the forest was still active. One field technician collapsed at the crater's edge. Another claimed they saw their reflection blink in the wrong direction. Pike logged it all. Hunter Green classified it. Voss stared too long into the anomaly's pulse and said only one thing: "It's not finished with us." The present-day hearing was silent for a moment. A senator, older than the rest, finally leaned forward. "So the cover-up started right away," he said slowly. He glanced around the room. "And it lasted for decades. What was the reason it was kept so tight-lipped? Did it not hurt the advancement of our own technology? And how, exactly, did something this significant remain secret for so long? And who funded it?" No one answered immediately, because everyone already knew. The truth was too powerful to control, and the cost of revealing it had always been humanity itself. Jack Barrett and Sergeant B were no longer merely soldiers. They had become anomalies within their own biology, anomalies born of a phenomenon neither they nor their handlers fully understood. Under Dr. Voss's watch, the sessions of silent meditation and focused breath work weren't for healing. They were for alignment, an effort to tune Jack and Sergeant B into a signal that hadn't stopped transmitting. The deeper they trained, the clearer it became. They were not recovering. They were adapting. Yet even now, the truth was buried. The memo, the tape, the timeline, all doctored, all delivered in fragments designed to confuse. And in the shadows of classified vaults, questions still swirled like plasma. "So the cover-up started right away," one senator finally said, "and lasted for decades. What was the reason? Why keep it so tightly sealed? Didn't that slow our own advancement? And how the hell was it all funded?" Across the room, the silence lingered longer than it should have, because the real answer was too dangerous to put on record. Look ahead. Chapter 10. The Mirrored Saint. The message isn't done. As the anomaly prepares for its return, the signal buried in Jack begins to fracture. An intercepted transmission hints at something far worse, a shadow consciousness embedded within the echo structure itself, one that mimics, adapts, and evolves. It has a name now. Not given by man, but whispered from the edge of space-time. The Mirrored Saint. And as global surveillance intensifies and ancient doctrines are quietly rewritten, Jack will uncover a secret hidden not just from governments, but from time itself. Prepare to step back into the breach. Because the next convergence is already underway.
Through the silence of time, I walked alone, but the stars knew my name in undertone. From Rendlesham woods to Saturn skies, I carried the echo, I lived the why. It wasn't the end, it was unfolding. Not contacts made, but truth beholding. Beyond the war, beyond the flame, we weren't just shadows, we became.
All right, gentlemen. That's why I wanted to stop before we played the episode and just air, because it kind of connects. This is just my opinion. Like anything else, total cover-up, wiping out memories, even though it seems like something is actually helping either you or let's say Jack Barrett and Sergeant B retain some of those memories. But then also it connects to the medical issues that you had because you were altered. Same thing as Sergeant B. And the cover-up from the get-go, SAPs, everything's on the table with this chapter. So I'll start with Chris. Chris, what was your take on this chapter?
Well, as we know, Jack comes back, right? And, he's returned to duty, but before that, they scrub his memory in certain ways. But what is kind of makes it very interesting is that I'm going to call it the signal. Some people will call it the phenomenon, some people whatever, but I'll call it the signal. So the signal has different ideas because it's not done with Jack, not done with Sergeant B. Sergeant B actually, after they even scrub his memory, starts to get nightmares.
Yeah.
And he starts hearing voice that's telling him something that hasn't even taken place in the future yet.
Like premonitions. Yep.
The future type of thing. So B is starting to do this. But the government, which they normally do, I mean, this is no surprise to anybody, says, hey, we got this signal here. This is strange. How can we weaponize it? And that's actually said into Chapter 9 is the protocol starts to become to weaponize whatever they're finding there to do that. So you're starting to see, okay, Jack being brought back to duty, but the signal's not done with it. And so they start to monitor Jack. They start to monitor Sergeant B because obviously things have changed with Jack. His body composition is EEG, which is, by the way, the same thing happened to Travis Walton. His EEG changed after he. Well, the same thing with Jack Barrett's experience was a change in his body chemistry.
Yes. John, obviously you already know pretty much about this because you wrote it. But is this exactly what goes on behind the scenes? This is typical, like Chris said. It's immediately cover up. They come to the conclusion we need to weaponize this. This is something that we can utilize, not just in the present, but in the future. And you guys are more than just assets because you're linked directly to this.
Everything the government does has one sole purpose: how to retain power. And how do you retain power? By weaponization and fear. So that's exactly, yes, every day. Right now, across the world, and different governments, including ours, they're trying to come up with something else, a different weapon, a different countermeasure, something else that will allow the elite to retain the power that they have.
But you know something, John? And I think you hit it right on the head with how they do it. But in this particular incident, I think they're trying to see if they can manipulate time. Because if you manipulate time, you have the ultimate power. You can go back and change things. For instance, you can go back in time, kill somebody that could be an enemy of the state, or make sure certain things do not happen, or make sure certain things do happen in your favor. So, because you started having missing time again. The signal or the phenomenon, after they scrub your memory, they put you back, you start experiencing missing time. So there's a missing time element that's real. So I think they wanted to keep you under observation of this.
Well, they were hoping that they were going to forget about this long-term, short-term, but it didn't end up exactly the way they planned.
Well, I think there's a conflict. So I think, although they want to scrub his memory, I think the signal, the phenomenon,
has other ideas.
It's a different idea.
Yes.
It wants him to retain what's happening with him. Am I pretty close, John?
Yep.
Awesome, because guess what, guys? We're already out of time, but before we leave, I want to ask John, any hints on 10 where this is going?
Well, Chris, and you've had a lot of questions. It's going to go wide open next chapter. So.
Good, I'm looking forward to that.
Same
wide
here.
Open.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 9, Double Self, and we'll be back on Saturday with our live show. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure if you haven't seen any of the prior episodes, they are available on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, etc. And don't forget, credit where credit is due. Keith Kirlock, that does a lot of the work behind the scenes, so kudos to him. And I'm just going to pull up a couple of his websites on the screen. Bex Creek Soundscape Studio, bcss.rocks. Also, Rose City Sound Project. It's on YouTube at Rose City Sound Project. So for John Burrows, Chris DiPerno, and myself, we'll see you guys on Saturday, hopefully. And until then, have a great Thursday night, and we'll see you next week.